about to turn into fields. We're the fire from the sun. We're the light when the day is done. We are the brave, we're the chosen ones. With the diamonds, diamonds, rising up out the dust. Oh, rising up out the dust. Oh, rising out the dust. Oh, rising out the dust. Oh, rising, 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 rising. You've taken down so many others. Oh, but you'll know my name when you see it. And in these ashes, I'm stronger still. You'll learn to feel my pain, yeah, you will. You've taken down so many others. Oh, but you'll know my name when you see it. In these ashes, I'm stronger still. You'll learn to feel my pain, yeah, you will. You'll learn to feel my pain, yeah, you will. Yeah, you will. Yeah, you will. We're the fire from the sun. We're the light when the day is done. We are the brave. We are the chosen ones. We're the diamonds, diamonds. We're the diamonds, diamonds. We're the diamonds, diamonds. We're the diamonds, diamonds. Rising above the dust. Rising out the dust. Rising out the dust. Rising out the dust. Oh, rising about the dust. Oh, rising about the dust. Oh, rising, rising, rising. I wanna be there when the voices in your head are loud enough to make you lose your mind. But just the same when you're dominating the day, I wanna be the one who's by your side. You know my love is not the jealous type. It doesn't matter if we win or lose. Oh, I can stay or I can come no matter where you're coming from. I can be the one to let you choose. Wanna hold you close but never hold you back, just like the banks to the river. And if you ever feel like you are not enough, I'm gonna break all your mirrors. Wanna be there when the darkness closes in, to make the truth a little clearer. Wanna hold you close but never hold you back, I'll be the banks for your river. Be the banks for your river. Be the banks for your river. You are beautiful and wild at every turn. Who am I to take control?
Hey, welcome to our virtual parent night for Inglewood Middle School. This is Principal Irvine. Welcome you all from Carson, Smith, Blackwell, Meade, and McAuliffe Elementaries. Thank you so much for joining us. Looks like we have about 118, 120 attendees so far, and so excited to share a bunch of information with you for our incoming sixth graders. One of the things that I want to mention right before we get started is that we are going to make one assumption for this entire presentation, and that is that we will be in person full-time school in September. I know it might not happen, but I can't make any predictions beyond that. And so we're basically going to do this whole presentation assuming that. So any information that you receive, that's what we're going to make that assumption. Next slide. So we have a bunch of folks here tonight to talk to you. Myself, Principal Irvine, we have Katya Wright, our PTSA president. We have Jennifer Damey, one of our sixth grade LASS teachers, Bryce Harder, sixth grade math, Stacy Drake, sixth grade science, Amanda Martell, foundations. Karen Summers and Dylan Slatton are two of our counselors, and they kind of split the grade level. We have Sarah Hubert, who teaches leadership as well as our activities ASB coordinator. Shannon Bleak, who teaches sixth grade PE and is our athletics director. And then two folks that are you won't actually see today, but they are totally behind the scenes tonight, being our producers. That's Sarah Hall and Devin Engledew. Next slide. I'm going to now introduce Katya Wright, who will be talking with you a little bit about PTSA.
Hi, good evening everyone, and welcome to Inglewood. My name, as Dan mentioned, is Katya Wright, and I am the current and outgoing PTSA president. I have an 8th grader here at Inglewood, and 3 years ago I sat where you guys are sitting now, albeit in the bleachers at Inglewood, slightly daunted at the thought of having a middle schooler. And I'm here to tell you that everything is going to be okay. He's alive, he's well, and he is prepared for high school next year. So for those that do not know about PTSA, it is the Parent Teacher Student Association, a national membership-based non-profit organization, and a totally separate organization from Lake Washington School District, separate from Inglewood Middle School, separate from the Associated Student Body, and also known as ASB, which you will learn more about during this presentation. There's sometimes confusions between PTSA and ASB. Just remember, we're completely separate organizations doing great things. The PTSA's purpose is to promote the health, welfare, safety, and education of all our students. That is our most important mission. As your students step into middle school, they become more independent, and that is a wonderful thing. They start making their own choices in their classes and what they do, and they make their own decisions, but it is still important for parents to stay engaged and stay involved as guiding figures. And that's sometimes a bit hard when they're taking their own steps and you don't know how do you stay involved. So I therefore really want to encourage all of you to join PTSAs and become a member. We offer our members many ways and information to stay engaged and involved, and all it costs is $15 a year to be part of that. PTSA supports and funds a multitude of programs at Inglewood, like Homework Machine, the drama production, Spelling Bee, Super Sitters events, funds for library and emergency preparedness, and much more. In the past, we have also granted funds, and last year that was about $14,000 worth of funds for items such as ukuleles for 6th grade music, bass clarinets, digital cameras, 500 copies of a novel for the LASS classes. We support students in need with backpacks and yearbooks, and t-shirts for intramural sports program and night crew. And we are funding a virtual band program this year. So this is still ongoing, even though we are not at school, and that's why it's important to still be a PTSA member. How do we fund these things? Each year we run one big fundraiser, and it's a pass the hat. It's very simple, and that's our only active fundraiser each year. We ask for your generous donations via our website, and we might have paper forms again next year, depending on how things go. Many employers like Microsoft, Costco, T-Mobile, Expedia, and AT&T, they match your donations. So I want to remind you and ask you to please apply for those with your employers. We have resources on our website about that, because it's a very important part of our passive fundraising that we do, and it helps us a lot in collecting funds for supporting our school. And of course, PTSA also offers great volunteering opportunities that are guaranteed to make you feel good and engaged and connected and included. And they support your students, the teachers, and the school community as a whole. Our nominating committee is currently busy looking for new candidates for next year to step up as chairs and also on our board. It's a great board, and Mr. Irvine is very supportive of PTSA, so I can only recommend stepping up and getting involved there. So if you are want to join PTSA board, send me an email at president@inglewoodptsa.org. You can also access that through our website, which is up on the slide. And yeah, let me know and I will connect you with the nominating committee. There is an abundance of research, and it's a fact, how parental involvement, more than anything else, positively and unequivocally influences student achievement, and we want you to be involved. It is really, really important still, even at this age when they are taking those first independent steps. And do that by becoming, first of all, a PTSA member, secondly, by donating to our fundraiser, and if you like, volunteering. There's always something happening, and I invite you to visit our webpage, which is up on the screen. You can also use the QR code to get there with your cell phone cameras. And for members, we send out a weekly newsletter called the Nightly News, and that's got timely, useful information right at your fingertips in your inbox every week during the school year. We are also on Facebook, so go and check us out there, like us, follow us. There's all sorts of stuff going on there. And we post on and are very engaged on Facebook. So last point again, remember ASB and PTSA are two separate entities, both deserving of support, your students' support, and it will take 2 checks to support those because we are separate entities, and we look forward to working with the school and carrying on the good work. And with that, I want to thank Mr. Irvine for having me, and I will hand it back to Mr. Irvine now. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Katja. Next slide. So a couple things. One, Katja mentions this several times. ASB and PTSA are different entities, different funding sources, and we really want you to know that we have a pretty amazing ASB run by Mrs. Hubert. And one of the biggest things about ASB is that the students are kind of in control of their decision making. We are supporters, we are helpers, we help them kind of guide them, but really students make their decisions about what type of dances or social events or clubs or funding honor society, etc. The students are in control, and it's probably one of the main differences between kind of an elementary and a middle school model. I also wanted to mention that we are recording this, and I didn't mention that before, but we're recording this so that, and we're going to post this for you on YouTube, and then the PowerPoint will also be available. So if we kind of go fast tonight, just know that you can kind of go back and go back to it. Next slide. So what is Inglewood like? Well, the first thing I really want you to know is that we love your kids. I know we haven't met them yet, but we're going to love your kids, and we want them to love school. That's ultimately kind of our ultimate goal in making sure that your kids are happy and healthy. We also have a very fortunate group of kids who are well behaved. Academics at Inglewood is a center focal piece. Our teachers, who are amazing, by the way, work in teams and also just collaborate so well to make the experience for kids that much better. Athletics and activities allow for connections for kids, and in general, our ultimate goal is to create an inclusive school where everyone feels welcome, and we try to be as proactive as we can. So what is Inglewood like? Well, it's actually a really great school, and I can say that because I just started 6 months ago. So transition plan. As we're going to transition your kids and you guys from elementary to middle school, we have a whole sequence of things we're doing. The first is tonight's event, which you could watch later over and over again if you want. And so that's the parent meeting. The counselors met with your kids the last couple of weeks, and then they're going to go back in May to do another visit to talk a little bit about the activities and what it's like. So the last visit was more just about registration, making sure that they know what classes are available. We're also going to plan an Inglewood visit that happens in the spring. I know that didn't actually happen because of the COVID-19, but we are going to try to make that happen this spring. The next bullet is back to business days. That's right before school starts. It usually happens the week before. And the big piece about back to business days, this is time to kind of take school photos, to pay for class fees, and different things like that in the gym. It's also a time to kind of reconnect with the PTSA. And one thing that's special, and Mrs. Hubert's going to go a little bit into detail about this, but our first day, we really focus on orientation activities. And so the first day, 6th grade starts in the morning, but everyone else gets a half day. So we really want to focus on orienting our 6th graders to their new school. The last bullet on there is bus strategy. We call this leave no student behind. We want to make sure that every student that needs to get on one of our 13-14 buses actually gets on one of our 13-14 buses before at the end of the school day. So we really want to focus on making sure the kids are safe and getting home and arriving to school safely. So what is a typical day look like for a student? So first of all, we have our language, arts, and social studies classes. That's one teacher for 2 different periods, and so we do what's called blocking. So they'll have that class like a 1st or 2nd period, or a 3rd or 4th period, or a 5th or 6th period. The students will all take 6th grade math. They'll all take science, 6th grade science. They're going to take PE for half a semester, or for a semester, and they're going to take foundations for the other semester. And then they get a chance to do some electives. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about electives, but the students have a choice of iExperience, band, or orchestra. iExperience actually rotates once every quarter, and there's 4 different classes that are involved, whereas band and orchestra are year-long classes. Next slide. So 6th grade growth. One of the things that we want to do when your kids arrive at school for 6th grade is we want them to grow, and not just physically, whereas by the time they're 8th graders, they're going to be taller than Mr. Irvine. Now I'm about, you can't tell, but I'm about 5'9". So by then a lot of the 8th grade boys are going to be taller than me. I understand it, I get it, I'm okay with it. But we're also going to help them grow in organization, and we're going to also help them grow in responsibility. So for organization, when you have 5 different teachers, there's going to be a sense of trying to make sure what's due and what's not due. Students will be using their mobile laptops, which they've been using a lot, right? We are a big proponent of using a planner so that they can look at the week ahead, and we actually teach those skills in all of the 6th grade classes. And as well as they will have the ability to use a cell phone, but that needs to be off and powered off during the school day. Now, responsibility, one of the biggest things that we find is like, how do we help 6th graders manage all the responsibilities? So the activities, the homework, the family responsibilities, the community responsibilities. And so we're going to be working with them for 6th grade, 7th and 8th grade. And by the time they leave us in 8th grade, they are going to be ready for high school. That is our ultimate goal. Next slide. The last thing that I wanted to mention before I pass it on is that we have a lot of systems that are in place in terms of supporting kids to reach their goals. And so we have something called Flex. Now, Flex is twice a week. It's offered for half an hour, and it's an opportunity for students to kind of get extra support from their teachers. Either a teacher's going to ask them to come to the Flex session, or they're gonna join it. We also have a system called Homework Machine, which is an after-school homework program, which is actually sponsored by the PTSA. Thank you very much. We also have homework lunch support, which is really helpful for kids just getting focused and taking care of that homework that they may have missed. Now, in terms of social emotional learning, we have the United class, which meets twice a week. This is a great program. Particularly, it focuses on Character Strong, and it supports kids in their social emotional growth. The last thing I wanted to mention is a special class called Safety Net classes, and that's going to be a class that our counselors can recommend, so that kids that might need a little bit of help in language arts or math or study skills can get some extra support, either for a semester or for a year long. I'm going to now turn it over to Mrs. Damey, and she's going to talk to you about language arts and social studies.
Hello, I am Jennifer Damey. Thank you, Mr. Irvine, and I'm going to touch on our language arts and social studies curriculum. This year we adopted Amplify ELA in the district, and this is a digital program that's inclusive of all language arts areas. So for writing, our students are writing often. They're constantly revisiting things that they've written last week to make guided revisions and edits. Reminding them that writing is this ever-changing process, and their first draft is rarely their final draft. For reading, each unit varies in both genre and goes from short excerpts to longer novel studies. A variety of topics are introduced. Right now, we are focused on primary documents all about the Titanic. Social studies is integrated whenever possible. When we are, for example, learning about ancient Greece, we touch on Homer's The Odyssey. Vocabulary is a differentiated program within Amplify that we kick every school day off with in language arts class. And then grammar is integrated throughout the curriculum, tied to current lessons. In an in-person setting, the Amplify program offers a lot of flexibility for teachers, so that if we have some tried and true projects and some things that we've always loved to teach, there's room for that, but it also frames a really cohesive roadmap so that all the standards are covered well and done so in a really engaging manner. For social studies, we begin the year reviewing continents, oceans, basic map skills, because at the beginning of each of our ancient civilization units, we start with geography. And our in-depth units are Mesopotamia, China, and Greece, with our text, TCI, History Alive, the Ancient World. We use our text. We also have a lot of supplemental activities, simulations. We focus a lot on research and credible sources and how to cite those sources in both language arts and social studies. And we, at one point in the year, dive into a major research report where students are able to choose between ancient Egypt, Rome, or India and demonstrate those skills in research. Lastly, we touch on current events by watching CNN 10 each day, and this is a daily 10-minute broadcast of world events that is geared towards students. And on that note, I am going to throw it over to Mr. Harder, one of our 6th grade math teachers. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Damey. My name is Bryce Harder. I've been teaching at Inglewood for 3 years now, and I absolutely love. We cover topics from fractions, decimals, percents, and there's also much review that happens in the first half of the year. And then in the second half of the year, we'll jump into expressions, equations, geometry, probability, and statistics, which everyone loves. And as much fun as it is to talk about the actual tech in the class is much more important to me. Our job as the 6th grade math teachers is to, one, introduce the kids to middle school math and prepare them for whatever 7th grade math they are going to be taking. How we do that is our work is differentiated. Students come in with a range of abilities, and we try to meet them where they're at. When we begin each chapter, we start with the pre-tests. When we finish each chapter, we end with the post-test to see where they've really excelled and maybe where some areas that we can go back and improve a little bit more. Our work is discussed frequently. Teamwork makes the dream work, I like to say. And so we're constantly talking about homework, questions in class, and everything except quizzes and tests. That's the only thing that I'll try to get them to stop talking about. Students are encouraged to show the work, and they are actually expected to at this point. Gone are the days that they can just tell us that the answer is 4 and not show us how it works or how they got there. As much as we want to know the answer, we want to know how they're doing their math. And so as our 6th grade math team tries to demonstrate why math is so interesting and beautiful and not just how to do it. And then the last and most important part for us is relationships. I like to say, if your child doesn't like me, they will not like my class. And so relationships are very important. And how we build our class from the ground up. We'll start a few weeks of just relationship building until they feel comfortable enough to maybe step out a little bit and try to engage them in their math work from there. And that is it for me. And I'm going to pass it over to the wonderful Miss Drake for 6th grade science.
Speak next. So I am Stacy Drake. I'm representing the 6th grade science department, and I wanted to share with you some things that happen in 6th grade science. So here at Lake Washington School District and at Inglewood, we use a spiraling curriculum, which means that we learn a little bit about each one of the 3 major science forums each year. So we have a little bit of life science, some earth science, and some physical science each year throughout the middle school years. And in 6th grade, we cover topics like the nature of science, what is science and why do we do it, neural pathways, atoms, thermal energy, water cycle and weather, the rock cycle, cells, plants, ecosystems, distribution of resources, and health. So we have quite a range to cover for a year. And our district has adopted a system called, or a method of teaching called ambitious science teaching as our foundation for instruction. It works much better in person than it does over the internet. So hopefully when we're back next year, we'll be back to it. That method really invites us to use a phenomena in the natural world to help us develop models and describe our understanding as we progress through the topic. So they'll draw their understanding at the beginning, the middle, and the end of their unit. And in each unit, we're going to try and blend as much direct and plenty of small group activities to get those brains thinking and going. So our small group activities are things like station labs, where they'll investigate using different resources, inquiry labs, which would be what we know as a regular lab in a science class, as well as things called POGLs, which are very guided routines that kids go through in order to investigate a particular topic in a small group and more student-led. So it really puts them at the forefront of their learning. We will have hands-on and virtual labs because we have access to so much now. And we work really hard to develop those problem-solving skills that not only affect us in science, but also in math and language arts and outside school in so many parts of our lives, as well as working in those small groups to foster that social emotional kind of skills that we gain through cooperative work. So we're really building those 5th graders into middle schoolers. And I guess now I would like to introduce our IMS Foundations teacher, Ms. Martell.
Thanks, Mrs. Drake. My name is Amanda Martell, and I am one of the IMS Foundations teachers. Simply put, this is a class that aims to prepare students for success both in middle school and beyond. The idea is that we are helping them build those foundational, if you will, skills, which include, there's like 3 big topics that we cover in our semester-long class. So they include academic and life skills, social emotional skills, and then also Character Strong's 8 essential characteristics. With academic and life skills, and the notes that I have on the slide are really just, you know, not even touching the surface of what we cover, but they at least give you some idea of what we cover in Foundation. So topics include note-taking, how to properly use a planner, how to manage time, test-taking strategies, typing skills, how to practice good digital citizenship, personal responsibility, and organization. And then social emotional skills, there's primarily 6 topics that we cover in that. So the first being relationship skills, that we like to try and help students form friendships with one another, not just stick with students that they all came from the same elementary school from. Self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, social awareness, and then also self-regulation. And then finally, the last thing that we cover, like the big topic in Foundations, would be Character Strong's 8 essential characteristics. And these are the same characteristics that are touched on in United. We briefly touch on these, but they are patience, humility, forgiveness, respect, kindness, honesty, commitment, and selflessness. The idea with this class is that students leave the class as a better person, better student, better family member, and so forth. And I have, next slide, I've got 3 student testimonies that explain the class in their words. So this one says, you will leave IMS Foundations knowing how to show respect, keep friendships, you will learn to show kindness to all, you will get sad at the end of the semester because you don't want to leave the class, you will be able to know the difference between nice and kind, you will leave IMS Foundations as a better person. And then I've got 2 more. All right, this student said, you'll leave IMS Foundations knowing how to keep your mind healthy. In IMS Foundations, you'll learn to be a kind, empathetic person, or in other words, the best you there is. And then finally, the last student testimony, you'll leave IMS Foundations knowing how to study and take tests well in the future so you're not stressed. You'll know how to be respectful to anyone and everyone. You will have the skills to be social and to be organized. You'll leave the class not always being stressed and know when to have fun and take a break. Overall, you will leave IMS Foundations knowing how to be a good person. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Bleak, the PE teacher.
Hi, my name is Shannon Bleak, and I actually get a chance to talk to you twice. So first, I want to talk to you about 6th grade PE. And 6th grade PE, looks different than it does in elementary school to some degree, in that we are going to change clothes so that we were in our athletic gear. And when we change back to our regular clothes, we still smell good when we go to our next class. PE is also a place, the only place at Inglewood where students have a locker to be able to lock up their stuff. So this is a life skill. They'll learn how to open a combination lock. And different than PE when I was a kid, many moons ago in middle school, I remember that we were definitely graded on whether or not we could climb to the top of the rope and touch the ceiling. At Inglewood in PE, we are grading you on your effort and your effort to improve, your ability to know the rules of the game and play by the rules of the game. We're going to also use a OneNote to track our progress with our fitness testing. We also will look at healthy lifestyles, and the deep dive we take in 6th grade is with hydration. In 7th and 8th grade, they take a different look at a different healthy lifestyle. The units you can expect in 6th grade PE. Now, these are units that we did a year ago. So we'll see again, as Mr. Irvine said, as we come back and evaluate where we are. We definitely do fitness testing, and we do that 3 times in the semester so that we can graph and chart our progress with how we're doing, for example, on sit-ups, right? And how that can improve. We do soccer and kickball. We do a game called Tookball, which if you don't know what that is, I highly recommend Googling it at some point because it is so fun. Kids love that game, and it's a different type of strategy than most games that they're familiar with. Badminton, hockey, floor hockey, obviously, nitro ball, which is a version of volleyball, and ultimate football. And ultimate football is something that they'll see all 3 years at Inglewood, as it is something that we can do with all 3 grade levels at the same time in the gym on some of our most inclement weather days. So 6th grade PE is a great movement break in their day, and we know that when we get your kids up and moving, that we're activating those synapses in their brains so they're more prepared for the rest of their day. So that's a little bit about 6th grade PE, and now I'm going to pass it back to Mr. Irvine.
Thank you, Ms. Bleak. This is Mr. Irvine again. So we've talked about language arts and social studies. We talked about math, science. We've talked about PE. We've talked about the foundations course. And now I want to make sure that you guys know that we 6th graders have some choice in terms of what electives that they might take. Now, we really have it broken down into one class that they could take, which is called iExperience. And now iExperience is 4 different classes, each offered during 1 quarter. So quarter 1, they might have an art class. In quarter 2, they may have a technology STEM class, and then etc. So the 4 different classes are art, technology, family, consumer sciences, it's also called foods, and music. And so kids will rotate through in a different cycle, and the order will depend on kind of which section that they're in, so that we get all the kids through all the different classes. And what's really nice about that is it's just a great exploration for kids to figure out what they really like. And so middle school should be about exploration. And so this is the iExperience class was something that we designed in order to make sure that that happens. Students can also have the opportunity to continue or start taking band or orchestra. And so we actually have 2 different levels of 6th grade band. We have a beginner band for those who have never actually picked up an instrument before. And we also have an advanced band for those kids who have a little bit of skill already. And so we teach both of those. Now, one of the things that we need from you guys, so this is your homework, is I sent you an email asking you to fill out a form survey. Now that deadline is on the what day is today? The 22nd. It's this Friday. So I would love for you guys, I'll send the link again if you lost it, but I need that link, or I need you to fill out that form survey, and that's going to be able to tell me as I build the master schedule what classes that I need to put in for your 6th graders. And so I put the link on here, and so when you get the PowerPoint, you can see that as well. But again, 6th grade electives, either a year-long band or orchestra, or the iExperience class, which is a year-long, but it's 4 different classes over the course of the year. Next slide. One of the things that I had put in here is we are using this OneNote group called Information for Families, and this is just an example of kind of what it looks like. The idea here is that we're kind of previewing what the week or a couple weeks is looking like. What are the things that are your students have that are due, and what are the different assignments or different topics that they're going to be covering for the week. What we have found is that during this remote environment, this has been really, really important, particularly because, you know, 6th graders or any student really during the remote environment have been getting a little bit distracted, or and so families have been helping out and by making sure that here's that information for families. We will be sending those links out for each class at the beginning of the year, and then we'll also have a little bank of all the different links so that you can get to those. In addition, you will always get emails from teachers. You will be making phone calls. We value parent engagement and parent communication. Our teachers need your input, and even though your kids are getting older and they're becoming much more independent, they still need you. And so we just want to make sure that you're informed as well. I'm going to now turn it over to Ms. Summers and Mr. Slatton, 2 of our school counselors, who will be talking about our counseling services.
All right, thank you, Mr. Irvine. We are just briefly going to tell you a little bit about school counseling at Inglewood Middle School. And again, a couple reminders about course registration. Next slide. My name is Karen Summers, and I'm just completing my 6th year as a school counselor at Inglewood, and I get to partner with Dylan Slatton to support next year's 6th graders, your students, coming to join us. We did a lot of visits over the last few weeks to the 5th grade classes, and I can tell that this group of 5th graders turning into 6th graders are going to be a great group of kids to have at school. One of the benefits to our model is that your school counselor will stay assigned with that student for all 3 years at Inglewood. So we will follow your student through 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Next slide. So the role of the school counselor at the middle school level becomes a little more direct service with students. We work to support their academic achievement. So anytime they're struggling or looking for more challenge as well, then we can support them with that. We do start launching into more career awareness and helping them with some future planning, thinking about the next steps in their life once they get done with school. We help them with their personal and social development. There is a lot going on between 6th and 8th grade for middle schoolers, and we're there available to support and help. We really do value partnering with parents, and we work as a team with the parents, teachers, and the school staff. But most of all, we are there to advocate for your student, to help them on their journey towards more independence as 8th graders as they're growing up, and really just to be a friendly face, someone kind and caring at school that will listen to them and help them get their needs met. And now I will turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Slatton, to explain a little more.
Hello, I'm Dylan Slatton, and I have students with the last names A through C. So if your last name starts with A through C, or your students does, then I'll be their counselor. And Ms. Summers has D through Z. Thanks for letting us come and share a little bit about counseling with you. There's lots of different reasons that we might meet with students, or they might come see us, or you might reach out to us. And we really encourage and teach students how to access their counselor. So we go into classes and we introduce ourselves so that they really kind of get to know who we are. And we've already started that because we went to 5th grade classes and did some registration stuff with them. So they're starting to get familiar with us a little bit, which is great. Some of the reasons that a student might see their counselor in middle school would be for some academic planning, if they have some concerns about their schedules, or if one of their classes is wrong or something like that, we can definitely help with that. Sometimes students will have some friendship problems or some conflict with other students or with a teacher or with somebody at home, and so we kind of try to help them kind of talk through that and help them to kind of figure out what they might want to do about that. We get lots of different questions and concerns from students, and we meet with students all the time, even virtually. We meet with students all the time to support them, and then just to provide supports to students and families and teachers. I mean, that's what we're here for, is to try to help things just be better for everybody. Next slide. We like Mr. Irvine said, we've been in all the elementary schools and talking to your students and trying to explain classes to them. We'll be going back later in the springtime to give them more information about clubs and sports and all that kind of stuff, and how to get involved in middle school. We have a deadline for January 22nd, so if you can go in and complete that registration online by January 22nd, we would really appreciate it. We'd love to get all the students in there so that we can start planning for next year. The form was emailed to you, so if you didn't get it, then you can reach out to the school. You can contact Erica Molly. She is our amazing counseling secretary / registrar, and she can help make sure you get the form, or you can reach out to myself or Ms. Summers for that. So again, super excited to have your student come to Inglewood next year, and it's going to be an awesome year. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Hubert.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Hubert. Thank you, Dylan, for passing it over. I will be sitting in your shoes next year as my child will be preparing to go to middle school. So I can understand some of those nerves that you're having. And what I want you to know is you can hear that we all love and care for your kids already. My job, one of the many hats that I wear, is to plan orientation for your sixth graders. I'm just showing right now, there's an example of a postcard. We didn't get to do our typical orientation this year, but every sixth grader got a handwritten postcard welcoming them and congratulating them on being the newest Knights. Next slide. So just so you have a little bit more information about what orientation looks like and the process, we actually start planning in the spring. And what we have is a crew of 8th graders. They apply to be night crew. And night crew, it's about, I think we had close to 90 kids this year, and they all express an interest in creating a culture of kindness and inclusion at Inglewood. Before they start any of their training, we actually run through the activities with these 8th grade students and these 8th grade leaders so they understand what the process looks like. And then they dedicate 2 days out of their summer before school starts to come in and train and learn all about being a night crew leader. We break up our 6th grade class into small groups, and so we'll have 2 night crew leaders per group, and that's a group of about 10 kids. It's one way that our kids, our 6th graders, get to learn new names, they get to meet new people, they become comfortable with 8th grade leaders, and then they get to explore the school without any other students. So all of our 6th graders are there the morning of the first day with only the night crew leaders as 8th graders. That is it. And so everything is about welcoming your 6th graders to Inglewood and making them feel as if they are Knights right from the start. So bottom line, we work to make your 6th graders feel welcome from the moment they enter the doors of IMS. Next slide. So one of my other hats is ASB, and you heard Mr. Irvine talk about that, and Katya as well. where our goal is to create shared experiences. And through these shared experiences, you know, our students are planning them, they're implementing them, and they work on this year round. So I have my ASB team that's the elected positions, but then I also have student leaders that are in my leadership classes. They put on things like pep assemblies, we have message assemblies, we have a nightlife, which is essentially a dance / carnival / all the activities that you can think of. We have a pretty robust club program. Even remotely we do. We put on hot chocolate mornings. So when we start in the fall, we'll have our fundraiser, which is the fun run. And students, it's another shared experience that happens during United, where their United class will come up with a theme and they get to dress in that theme. And then we have a parade, but it's also our fundraiser, and it funds all of our activities throughout the year. It's our one and only fundraiser. So it's one of those moments that really bonds our kids together and makes it so they want to be at Inglewood. And that's ultimately what we want. We want them all to show up and love it. They will. Okay, I'm going to hand it back to Mrs. Bleak.
Another way that, besides doing the fun run and all these great things that run through our activities, is to join athletics. It's a great way to meet new people who have similar interests. You can improve your skills, your confidence, you have fun, you get some exercise, and as I said earlier, you're firing those synapses in your brain. Student athletes tend to do better academically because they're more are more connected to their school. They learn time management because they have practices and games, and they're connected to their school. And one great thing about Inglewood is about 80% of our coaches are in the building. They are your students' teachers. And so now your students' teachers are getting to see them in a whole new light and in a new way and develop that relationship even more. So then we do see those academic jumps because they are connected this way. Our coaches teach life lessons. Middle school is all about life lessons. We got a lot of them. And so we learn life lessons. We learn commitment, integrity, discipline, time management, accountability, and leadership. All of this happens in athletics. And so I just want to talk specifically a little bit more about how athletics works in middle school, as it's different than your clubs and it's different than at the high school. So if we go to the next slide, the greatest part of middle school athletics, and I love my job. I even put myself in the gym. My background is our school gym because I miss it so much. I love my job. And the greatest part about it is that there's no cuts. In middle school, this is your opportunity to try out any sport that you've been wanting to try, because we have a level for you. There is a varsity level, and we do, that is a selected group, and then there's a JV level, and then there's a regional level. But every kid who turns out is put on a team. Any sport that you want to try out for, or turn out for, you sign up using final forms. And if you go to our school website, you can see that there is a tab up there that says athletics and activities. And in there, there's directions on how to use final forms. It's an online program to help streamline the process. Please note, and I tried to put it in bold here, registration for next year is not open yet. So you can't register your child for athletics until August. That's when we open up the next year's stuff on final forms. The other thing to note is that payment for athletics is collected through the ASB. And you can either bring that to our ASB office in the school building or through the website, but it's final forms can't collect the money because it's independent of the school district. There is a family cap that applies, and depending on your family, that looks different depending on how many kids are playing and things like that. So you can read all about that on our website. But I want to share with you on the next slide what we offer at Inglewood. So each season, we run 4 seasons. Each season is about 8 weeks. And within that 8 weeks, your student will have somewhere between like 5 and 7 competitions with other schools. So they'll have the opportunity to ride a bus to another school or host another school at our school. And in the fall, we offer boys tennis, cross country, which is co-ed, and boys basketball. And then in the winter, we have 2 separate seasons. The winter's kind of long here in the great state of Washington. It just starts raining and keeps on going. So we have 2 sets of winter times. We have girls badminton and boys soccer. And then our second season for winter is girls basketball and co-ed wrestling. And then in the springtime, we have track, which is co-ed, girls tennis, and girls volleyball. And this allows every person to find a sport in that season that they can participate in. We also, on the next slide, have intramurals. And we have 2 sessions that are each 2 weeks. So when we return from winter break in February, we run, well, January and February, I guess we return from winter break in January, excuse me. January and the beginning part of February, we run intramurals, and they're each 2 weeks. This does not apply to your family cap. And the participation fee is $25, and it's not on final forms. Because it's not interscholastic, right? We don't go to other schools. It's not part of final forms. And so you'll sign up differently. Your kids will have all the information on that. It will also be, it's also on our website. Last year, the year before last year, we ran dodgeball and floor hockey, both of which were highly attended and is super fun for kids. And it's a little less, there's some skill development, but it's a lot more gameplay because it's only really 8 sessions that happen. So I think that, could you go to the next slide? Do I have one more? No, I don't have one more, but I would encourage you to have your kids try out for a sport. This is, as I go back to middle school, this is a way that I got connected. We moved and my parents said, here's the fall sports, pick one. In our building, it's a great way to meet other people and make lifelong friendships. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Irvine to wrap up for you.
Thanks, Mrs. Bleak. Oh my gosh, I have the best team. Inglewood is an amazing school. You guys are so lucky that your soon-to-be 6th graders are going to be coming here. The teachers, they love the kids love being there. I can't wait until we get to work with your kids next year. Couple little housekeeping items. I wanted to make sure that we're typically during these types of nights we would do like a question and answer session, and we'd stay until the wee hours answering all your questions and making sure that you guys walked away fully satisfied. Unfortunately, during the virtual environment, what we're going to do is we're going to do a form survey. I'm going to email it to you guys the same way I've been emailing the other ones. Please respond to that. If you would like me to actually respond back to you, please include your name and your email address. And that there's actually a little space on there for you to do that. As we get questions and we get frequently asked questions, we will actually make a little FAQ document so that any questions that people will just have those answers. The other thing I wanted to highlight is that we use our webpage quite a bit. So if you haven't done so already, bookmark it. And on the webpage in the academics section, the academics tab, there's a bunch of information regarding registration. So you'll see the course catalog if you haven't already downloaded that. At the bottom of the of that academics page, there's actually a virtual tour that we did last spring, and you'll see Miss Martell just kind of her smiling face, and you'll know you're in the right place. And so make sure you check that out. The other thing I just wanted to say is just thank you. Thank you for engaging with your students' education. Thank you for attending for this hour. And again, as I mentioned before, we are going to, we recorded this, we're going to make that available, as well as the PowerPoint if you wanted to check that out. I'm proud of being the principal of Inglewood, and I can't wait to get to know you guys and families. Thanks so much, guys.